Yo, what's good YouTube, man? It's Gabe with the Fan TV, man. Back at another video. At the content of this video, go and smash that like button at the content of this channel. Go ahead, subscribe, man. Look, all right, here we go. Ravens versus Seahawks game preview. Another very, very tough test for the Ravens. Another team that is that's pretty good. All right, coming from the NFC. We know what Lamar Jackson's record is versus the NFC at the current time. Now, he didn't want to talk about it this week during the press conferences, but you know, it is something that is I don't want to say it's real, but it is something interesting. Like he has a very, very good record. I think it's something like 18-1 at the time at the moment versus the NFC. So hopefully he can improve that. This Seahawks team is 5-2. We know that the Ravens right now are 6-2. So let's get into the game preview, injury report, all of those things like that. Let's talk about this game. All right. So now looking for the Seahawks injury report. There's really nobody on the injury report that's playing major time. That's going to miss the game. They have a couple of guys on IR that are important to them. They had a pass rusher, Uchenna Nwosu. He's on IR, but they signed Frank Clark in his place. So we'll see, how Frank Clark, how effective he is, versus with the Seattle pass rush. Also, their right tackle, Abe Lucas, has been out, I believe, since week 1. He is still out. He's not off IR yet, so he's not ready to come back at this time. So that's the major thing as far as they have, but they don't have anybody like guys like DK, Tyler Lockett, those guys were on the injury report, but they have no injury designation. Those guys are going to play. So the Ravens are going to get pretty much Seattle's best shot, all right? And the same thing on the other side for the Ravens. I did the game stats yesterday. A lot of good players for the Ravens are going to play. A lot of the important players for the Ravens are going to play. They're just mainly going to miss Morgan Moses, and Pat McCurry is going to step in his place and probably do an effective job because that's just what Pat does, right? All right, so Seahawks last 3 games, 17-13 loss versus the Bengals. They could have won that game, had a lot of turnovers in the red zone in that game. 20-10 win versus the Cardinals. Ravens obviously just played the Cardinals. And 24-20 W versus the Browns. So 2-1 in their last 3 games. They knocked the Browns off. That's good news for the Ravens. But now they come to Baltimore. All right, so let's talk about Seattle's defense. All right, Seahawks defense, they allow 331 yards a game, 16th in the NFL. Now this is an important one for the Ravens right here. So 45% third down conversion rate, 28th in the NFL. Okay, so Ravens have to convert their chances on third down. Passing defense, 234 yards a game, 22nd in the NFL, 65% completion percentage for 16th in the NFL. But this is the big number right here. 3.7 sacks a game for 2nd in the NFL, okay? They are only behind the Ravens, who are at 3.9 sacks a game. So for the NFL lead, right? Now, Seattle has played obviously 1 less game than the Ravens, so the sack numbers in total are a little bit bigger, but on a per game basis, they're right there with the Ravens, okay? So that's something that the Ravens have to be cautious of. They have to be mindful of. And like we said, Morgan Moses is going to be missing this game, so they have to be wary of that, all right? So rushing defense, 96 yards a game, 96.9 yards a game on the ground. That's top 10 in the NFL for 8th. So the Ravens are still going to try to run the football. Last week versus the Cardinals, we saw that they kind of got away from running the ball, tried to drop back, and then when really the run game was the more advantageous look. But they adjusted in the second half and got on the right track. So we'll see if they can do that again this week, all right? So Seahawks offense, 24 points a game, 11th in the NFL, 334 yards a game, 16th in the NFL. Their third down rate hasn't been very good this year, 35% converting third down, so for 24th, 50% in the red zone for 19th. Passing offense, 227 yards a game for 15th, 33 passing attempts a game, 21st. Only allowing 2 sacks a game, even with their offensive line kind of being makeshift the early part of the year. They had Charles Cross out. They still have Abe Lucas out. But they only given up 2 sacks a game so far at 60 in the NFL. A lot of that has to do with Geno Smith getting the ball out of his hands. And obviously makes him miss in the pocket. Just playing really, really good quarterback play. All right. Rushing offense, 107 yards a game for 19th. Rushing attempts, so they are at 24.7 rushing attempts per game. So they average about 4.3 yards a carry, so which is not bad. Honestly, it's not bad at all. All right, so when I look at these numbers, the main thing that sticks out to me as far as their offense goes is the Ravens got to get off the field on third down. The Ravens have done a better job of that. It could be better. In that the Seattle's red zone offense has been a little bit of a struggle this year. 50% in the red zone, 19th in the NFL. And a lot of that has to do with sometimes Geno can put the ball in harm's way, right? So let's get into the keys of the game because we're going to talk some more about that, all right? So keys to the game for the Ravens, we're going to go 2 on offense, 2 on defense like usual. And for offense, for the Ravens offense, right, my first key to the game is going to be a 6-man protection with Patrick Ricard. Now, that's not going to say that Ricard has to play 80, 85% of the snaps, something like that. But I think there is a point in time where we have to be honest and be like, okay, look, Justice Hill is a liability in pass protection, right? We got to be honest about that. And Gus Edwards doesn't provide the same kind of pop out the backfield that say Justice does. So the way that you can kind of mitigate this is you can have Justice Hill in the game, right? But you have Pat Ricard at the end of the line being that 6-man protection. When the Ravens have done this, it's worked out pretty well. All right, Ricard is big enough to be another offensive lineman. He has great technique, and honestly, when he's been used in this role, it's been a good thing for the Ravens. There has been games this year. I think back to the Colts game earlier on in the year where I wish Todd Monken would have used this more, right? So I think this could be the kind of game where a 6-man protection, with Pat Ricard out there could be a very, very important way for the Ravens to stop the Seattle pass rush, especially a pass rush that's averaging pretty much 4 sacks a game. All right, so to me, that's going to be important right there. Okay, so can the Ravens slow down that pass rush and use Ricard as an extra offensive lineman? All right, and even if you use it as extra offensive lineman, right, and you don't want to take your 3 wide receivers off the field, right? I would love to see maybe sometimes you line Zay up in the backfield. I was just watching the I was watching the Tennessee versus the Steelers game this past weekend, and there was about I think maybe 1 or 2 plays where they had DeAndre Hopkins in the backfield just go out on a little swing route and mess with the Steelers coverage. It was an easy first down, right? So just get creative, do certain things like that where maybe it's Zay in the backfield, whoever. And you don't have to hand him the ball, but he can run the route from the backfield, mess with their coverage like that. All right, so something creative like that, I would love to see it. But the main point is Pat Ricard, I think could be a very very effective weapon, blocking on the edge of the line as the 6th offensive line. All right, so that's one. Number 2, I think it's time to unlock Rashad Bateman. Okay, I've heard Lamar Jackson say Rashad Bateman is doing good, needs more targets. I've heard John Harbaugh say, "Oh, Bateman made a hell of a play. That's one of the best plays you're going to see when he, Lamar Jackson's hitting the pocket, kind of has to throw a floater out there versus the Cardinals, and Bateman goes up there and snatches that." John Harbaugh raved about that play, loved it. Bateman got a jet sweep that game. It's time for him to break out of this. He gets between 2 and 3 targets a game. Right, that's pretty much where he's been living at this entire season. It's time to break out of that. He needs to be, I won't say a focal point of the offense, but he needs to be a very, very, a much more stated part of the offense, a much more important piece of the offense, right? If you want to say he's third in the pecking order, is Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, that's cool. I'm fine with that. Even being third in the pecking order, that means more targets for him. It needs to happen. So, like I said, Lamar's talking about him. John Harbaugh's talking about him. So, to me, I think a Rashad Bateman big game is incoming. Hopefully, we can get it versus Seattle. That'd be major news right there. All right. So, 2 keys to the game on defense. All right. Take advantage of turnover opportunities. Right. Now, I talked about this a little bit with Seattle and their red zone issues. Some of that has to do with the fact that Geno Smith is a gunslinger. Right. He has a nice arm. He has confidence in what he's doing out there, so he will throw the ball up for grabs at that point in time, right? The Ravens have to take advantage of these opportunities, right? There will be a point in this game, maybe 2 points in this game, where Geno Smith will give the Ravens a shot to intercept the ball, right? And this is not to say Geno Smith is a bad quarterback. I actually love what Geno Smith has been doing this year. He's been a great comeback story from last year to this year, everything. But some of those same issues that he's always had of putting the ball in harm's way are still there, right? It's part of the reason that he is so good, too, as well, is that he's willing to make throws to other quarterbacks just won't even try. But that also can come back to bite you in the end. So the Ravens have to be ready to take advantage of those kind of opportunities, right? So now listen, you got Geno Stone back there with 5 picks. You got Brandon Stevens with multiple interceptions on the year. So the Ravens have some guys who are ready to pick up the football. Geno Smith, I believe, is going to give you opportunities to do that this weekend. So make the play. Right? Simple as that. Make the play. All right, and one kind of ties into two. Stifling red zone defense. The Seattle team is 19th in red zone touchdown percentage this year. Don't make this the game where they go, 3 out of 4. You know what I mean? 4 out of 5. Right? Don't make this that kind of game. If they're struggling in the red zone going into this week, make sure that the red zone defense is on point. Right? This is an area where you can capitalize and stifle them, shut them down for 3, or like I said, even turn the ball over. So 1 and 2 kind of go together, but to me, those are the 2 main points for the Ravens defense. That's the 2 things I'm really looking out for this game for the Ravens defense. And now listen, I want to do the X factors, right? So Seattle, this is probably the best trio of wide receivers the Ravens have faced since going against the Bengals early on this year. We know the Bengals got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Well, here comes Seattle with DK Metcalf, JSN, and the always consistent Tyler Lockett, right? So these are 3 tough receivers, and the Ravens' top 3 cornerbacks have to be able to be up for the challenge, all right? So Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens, and whoever you're throwing in the slot. Arthur Millette has been good this year, so that's probably the guy who's going to be right there. So those 3 guys versus Seattle's top 3 guys, to me, that's the X Factor matchup. That's the matchup that's going to hold the weight in this game. Can the Ravens corners cover these guys, right? Because listen, Brandon Stevens has been much improved. I think Marlon Humphrey has been a lot better than fans are giving him credit for. I think fans have been kind of hard on Marlon Humphrey for some reason. I think he's been solid to pretty good this year, right? I mean, I don't think he's been what he was last year, but he has come up with a foot injury, right? So I think it's gone too far. Some people are saying like, oh, he's been terrible. It has been nowhere near that bad for Marlon Humphrey, right? So he's been, like I said, he's been pretty good this year. Solid to pretty good this year. So this is the kind of game where he's going to get tested. Brandon Stevens is going to get tested. Arthur Millette is going to get tested as well. So to me, that's the major X factor to this game. Can the Ravens stop the Seattle top 3 wide receivers? So that's what I got for that. So now listen, getting to the last part of right here. Get into the score prediction for the game. And I'm going to go 1 possession game. Hey, listen, I said that for the Lions game and the Ravens blew them out. This is a good team in Seattle, so the Ravens will be up for the challenge. I do think the Ravens win this game. I'm going to go, let's see. I think the Ravens scored 30 points again. They've been kind of on a roll scoring 30. So I'm going to go 31-24 Ravens over Seattle in a tough, hard-fought game. That's my score prediction. As always, please leave your score prediction in the comments. Leave your prediction for the game in general in the comments. X Factors, all of that. And yeah, man, we're going to talk about it in the comment section, man. But I'm going to get out of here. It's Gabriel, just on the Fan TV. I'm out.